All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's 7 o'clock. We're very prompt with this. Go ahead and take your phone. Okay, so this is LASFS The Panel Continues, and we were scheduled to have guest Jules Rivera here, but due to a work conflict, she was unable to make it. So instead, we have set lighting technician Paul Sartain, who also happens to be my husband, for anyone watching who doesn't know that. But Paul has been in the movie industry for over a decade and has recently worked on TV series like The Orville and Westworld. Cool. He also recently worked on the Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man
Far From Home.
Far From Home. So Paul, tell us about your experience in lighting. What is the most interesting thing that you do on a day-to-day, or why are you in this in the first place? Whichever place you want to start.
It's the best thing about the movie industry is that there's a job for anybody. It's so varied. You can have an office job, you can have a semi-office job, you can have a job that changes every single day, and that's kind of where I land. I don't do well showing up at the same time to the same place every day, so I really value the vary. I don't know until sometimes the day before where I'm going or what I'm doing.
What do you do? Explain what set lighting technician is. What do you do on set?
There are several different aspects to the job. The main set lighting technician is you show up, you unload the truck, you turn on the power, and then you bring in the lights according to the gaffer. The gaffer will tell you where to put what light. You set that light up, you do whatever the gaffer tells you to do with it. He's responding to the DP. And then once it's set up, you do that a couple more times, you light the whole set, they go for a take, they roll on the actors, do whatever they need to do, and then they cut, and then you change the whole thing. Change the lighting, change the shot.
So some people always get gaffer and grip mixed up.
Yeah, some people do.
People like me.
The gaffer is the head of the lighting department. A grip is basically my job, but with grips do controlling light.
Yeah.
So, like, we'll turn the light on, but if it needs to be cut in, or if it needs to be softened, something about the quality of the lighting be changed,
yeah,
the grips will do that.
Okay.
They're also in charge of camera movement.
Okay.
And
you're not in charge of camera movement?
No.
Okay.
No, so if they have to like attach a camera to a car or attach a camera to a dolly or put it on a tripod, that's all grip.
Okay.
That's not what I do.
But you're not a gaffer either. In the gaffer department, this set lighting technician falls in between the two, so people can have that confusion?
Tried to gaff a couple of times.
Okay.
And one of the biggest skills, and a skill I don't have, is communication. You have to be able to lead a whole team.
Yeah.
And be able to keep all of the pieces in your head and say, you move that there. And while they're doing that, you have to move on to the next person and give them instructions and the next instructions to make the lighting look like you want it in your head.
Yeah.
And while I can see in my head what I want the lights to do, getting other people to do it, I can't do that.
So what's some of the cutting edge changes in lighting? Because you have been working with some of the most cutting edge movies and TV shows recently. What have you seen that's changed? What's the future right now?
Huge difference is LEDs.
Yeah.
LEDs have changed the lighting industry.
When were LEDs introduced in movies and TV?
The first really successful LED light probably came out maybe 5 years ago.
Okay. So it's very recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since then, it has taken over the industry. everything now is LED, with the exception of the really big, bright lights. LED still doesn't have the horsepower that like an HMI does.
Okay.
For like if you need a big day, it's a sort of arc light. Yeah, it's a daylight source.
Yeah.
That can simulate the sun. Basically, you can push them in through a window.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that and sunlight.
Yeah, and LEDs can't do that.
Not without a huge amount of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they can get the color right too?
Of
the sun if they were to be that huge?
Yes. There's a lot that goes into the science of LEDs, and a lot that goes into the science of color and lighting.
Yeah.
Even HMIs have a spectrum. Like if you look at sunlight has a perfect curve, no gaps, that fills the whole spectrum on a color meter.
Yeah.
If you look at a tungsten light, the old-fashioned incandescent light, it's pretty good. It has a different shaped curve, but it fills a lot of the space.
Yeah.
An HMI has a few gaps, but skews more towards daylight. If you look at a good LED, it's got even more gaps than that, but you get the basic curve if you shift it towards daylight or you shift it towards tungsten. If you look at a really cheap LED, it's just a few big spikes. And that's the kind of things you're going to find at like Home Depot or IKEA.
Yeah.
Just
in your home.
Yeah, just
LED lights.
Just cheap LED lights. Yeah.
Energy saving.
Yeah.
Okay, so LED lights have been a big game changer. You're saying there's a lot of science and engineering that goes into them. Talk about that.
Other than the color science, there's a constant fight for output.
Okay. Like brightness?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Getting it as bright as you possibly can without changing the color too much.
Okay.
Because we have those curves that we want to match.
Yeah.
The big factor on that is heat.
Okay.
You think, you screw in your LED light bulb, it doesn't get as hot as incandescent.
Right.
Well, it's because you're not running your home LEDs nearly as hard as we are. Yeah, we push our LEDs very, very hard.
So they still heat up a room.
Yes. Well, I mean, not as much as an HMI or an incandescent. They're still going to be significantly cooler.
Yeah.
But as you heat up an LED, you lose its lifespan, and you lose that color spectrum starts to shift. So we have to control the heat on the head. So while LEDs can do a lot, they've actually made lights heavier. An LED light in the movie industry is heavier than pretty much any other light. Yeah.
Because it's got so much fan?
Cooling.
Okay.
You giant heat sinks.
How does it cool? Anyway.
It depends on the head. Most of them have silent fans on the back, just like a computer, just blowing over heat sinks. I have not yet seen a liquid-cooled head, just because of the maintenance on those, which is probably fairly difficult. We do have liquid-cooled lights, xenons for like projectors and stuff like that.
So of your recent projects, what have been some of the most difficult or interesting ones to work on from a lighting perspective? I mean, I know you really like the lighting on Legion, how that's turned out.
Yeah, that's a whole different job I was doing, though. You have got the set lighting, and you've got the fixtures department, which installs LEDs in the set, installs it in costumes. Anything that looks like a light on camera is going to be a different department. That's fixtures department. That's not like crafting the light on an actor's face. Now, fixtures falls under set lighting. But they also work closely with the art department.
Right.
The art department will create a prop that needs to be lit up. And they'll be like, here's the prop, light it up. And yes, Legion is amazing at doing like all these little cool, intricate
in the fixtures.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that more a part of Legion than maybe some other movies, lighting source?
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Set.
And the harder you skew towards sci-fi,
yeah,
the larger the fixture department's going to be.
Okay.
With the exception of things like post-apocalyptic.
Okay, yeah.
Of course, there's going to be like, natural light. Maybe even torchlight, which we have to simulate. They'll be like, this is a candle, but candles don't put out enough light.
Yeah.
So we have to simulate that with, an actual movie light.
Yeah. I mean, some of the projects you just worked on, like the Avengers and Spider-Man, these were reshoots for the feature. So how do you attack that problem? And maybe first explain what reshoots are for some people who aren't in the movie industry all the time and know why you spend that much time.
It's fairly self-explanatory.
But yeah.
They'll do principal photography. They'll shoot the whole movie, and then they'll cut it together.
Yeah.
And they'll either say, "Oh, we're missing a key plot point," or there was a bad, like the actors didn't get it the way they wanted, the director didn't get it they wanted. After they do the edit, then they make a list of things that they want to change or things that they want to add.
Yeah.
And that's either reshoots or additional photography.
Yeah.
And that's often done even after the trailer.
Yeah.
So they'll come out with a trailer and they're still shooting the movie.
Well, as evidence, you just finished Spider-Man today, and we've all seen the trailer for the new Spider-Man, or you can online if you want to.
Yeah, months ago, yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest trick with that is that all falls on the DP, because the DP has to look at the existing footage and recreate it.
Yeah.
Well enough that you won't be able to tell the difference, cut to cut.
Yeah.
Whether or not it was shot during principal or during reshoots.
But I mean, it's part of your job as well is to match the continuity, I would think. I mean, what kind of how do you approach this challenge?
I'm not high enough on the scale to make any creative decisions.
Of course, but your job is to execute this.
Yes, the DP and the gaffer will sit down, and the key grip, who's the charge of the grip department, and they'll be like, how did they do this? Sometimes we have behind the scenes footage.
Okay.
So someone will come up and say, like, here's the pictures of how they did it, or here's the plots from principal. Yeah. And we just great.
Are you trying to use the exact same lights and everything, or
as much as possible? Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Now a lot of times we don't have access to the same space that they did, so we can't light it the same way.
Yeah.
There's a major scene in Spider-Man where they had cranes to light the set.
Yeah.
We didn't do it on cranes. We did it on a stage. So they had this huge exterior set.
Yeah.
We recreated just the close-ups inside the stage. So we used all LED lighting to do what they used much more powerful lighting to do, because we had it all close-up, right? But getting the look right, using different heads, that's all on the DP and the gaffer.
So they decide.
And a key grip. I can't. I don't work with it much. So.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, they'll be trying to use the same lights, match as closely as possible the lighting, so that it can all cut together. What are some of the difficult problems you kind of have to solve on a day-to-day basis? What are things that go wrong, and what's the job like?
Time is always hanging like the sword of Damocles on any set during principal photography or during reshoots.
Yeah.
You can sit there and you can tweak and you can tweak and you can tweak until the cows come home.
Yeah.
But at some point, the DP or the director or the producer sometimes has to say, all right, that's good enough, just shoot it.
Yeah.
And to that end, there's a reason, so for Spider-Man, we did, I was on it for 5 weeks, but we only did 9 days of shooting. Everything else was, we did 3 days of wrap, Everything else was pre-production. Because the largest single cost is the actors. Getting the actors out on set in their schedule costs more than all of the crew combined. So we had basically 2.5 weeks of building looks, building the set, and then pre-lighting with stand-ins, so that we're not sitting there and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking while the actors are on the clock.
Well, I know you've also been using like pre-lighting tools and software and that kind of thing. Is that kind of standard, or is that cutting edge? Or
it's becoming more standardized.
Yeah.
It used to be that there was no way to really see the set ahead of time except in the gaffer's head. You know, especially on film. He would walk around with his meter, and he's the only one that knows what it's actually going to look like on film.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, people have eyes.
Yeah, but I mean, unless you're very experienced and you know how that film is going to react.
I mean, you have an idea. The film stock, it's gonna.
Sure. Like I said, that has to be an experience.
Yes.
Like a PA walking on the set, or even me walking on the set. I mean, I can kind of see like, oh, it's gonna be brighter on that side, but what it's actually gonna look like.
Yeah, to a camera.
Yeah,
it's objective.
that's exactly right. That's in the DP's head.
Yeah.
It's on him to make it come out like he wants it to say.
Yeah.
And now we have digital, so you can go to the monitor and you can see what it looks like. But that's still expensive because the actors are on set. And you've already ordered the lights. You've already built all the sets that you need to light. Well, nowadays things are skewing towards pre-visualization.
Yeah.
They'll just build it in a computer, light it in a computer, say, yeah, that looks about right. That's going to be our lighting package. Let's order it.
But you can also use the same plots that you have created in your pre-visualization and kind of work it into the set.
Yeah, more and more there's a big push to get pre-visualization software and lighting consoles to talk to each other. Yeah. And that's kind of the cutting edge right now. I know ETC, one of the major lighting companies, just announced complete real-time interaction between the plotting software and the board. So if you move something in the board or you change a level, it in real time changes it on your previs and in the real world. You can control everything all at once from either place. If I change it in my previs software, it'll talk to the board, and the board will change it in the real world. So that's like bleeding edge technology right now, but will probably become fairly standard here for big projects in the next 2 or 3 years.
What are the more enjoyable projects to work on?
I mean, as a sci-fi geek, anything sci-fi kind of.
I don't know what you're searching.
It's Doctor Who. I guess I have only myself to blame. More enjoyable. Honestly, the smaller projects and the television shows, I think, especially lately, have become more interesting than the movies.
Oh yeah.
Things like Avengers, things like Spider-Man are so big. They do everything in post. All we're doing is shaping actors on a green screen. There's nothing interesting to see.
Huh.
It's them acting on a big green space with green props and a guy in a green suit.
How do you get the green not on their face? Seems hard.
Yeah, and that's part of the DP's job, is to craft the light.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we have an actor here, and then the green screen will be 50 feet away.
Yeah, okay,
and in order
so
to
you're
be
not getting any.
And in order to be 50 feet away, it has to be, you know, 50 feet long and 50 feet tall.
Yeah, of course.
So the spaces have to be huge to do good, clean green screen.
Okay.
Also means you have to evenly light this huge space.
Yeah.
You know, for Marvel, who cares?
Yeah.
There's things like Legion or Westworld, even though they're larger budget, they can't do these huge green screen sets. You're actually you're lighting a mechanical buffalo, or these real life props that aren't just green people laying on the ground.
What are some of your favorite shots that you've seen from movies or TV that you've lit?
Favorite shots that I have helped light?
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't know. Luckily, I still have the ability to watch a show or a movie, even if I've worked on it, and get into the story.
Yeah.
I know a lot of my colleagues, they'll sit there.
Oh, the lighting.
Yeah, that's what they focus on.
Yeah. Well, that's what you're looking at your job.
Yeah, and that's true. But not being a DP, I don't dissect every shot in my head. Now I'll notice if it's bad, I'll be like, oh, that's terrible. And I know how to make it better.
Don't tell us the ones that were terrible.
No,
some
I know.
shots that you liked that you felt like.
But good lighting should be transparent. You shouldn't notice great lighting. It's the same way you shouldn't notice great sound. If you've noticed it,
I noticed how great the lighting was in Ghost in the Shell, but we all know I didn't really like that new movie.
Sure, but that's partly the problem with the story.
Yeah, the movie, the thing I don't like about the movie is
the story. But
I
would argue that's
beautiful.
almost also part of the problem of the DP. If you've noticed the lighting, then it's become too obtrusive.
It was great.
All right, well, I'm glad you enjoyed the lighting part of it.
Yeah.
Having worked on it, the more people say that's great lighting, that's personally.
I also think that the lighting in Westworld and Legion are some of that has some of the best lighting I've seen.
Oh yeah, no,
recently.
they look great, sure.
But
if you're noticing it instead of the story, if you watch and you're like, oh, that was awesome. Oh yeah, and the lighting was really good. That's what we're aiming for. Not being like, oh my, that shot with the lens flare and the lighting coming from the side. No, if that's what you're noticing, we've lost you.
Well, I guess I would say I'm noticing the colors in Legion maybe more than lighting.
Sure.
That's attention.
Yeah, but A, you like color, and B, you're a film professional. These are the things that.
Fine, not everyone looks at the lighting and says, wow, that was very good. Yeah. But I do.
So for specific shots, I don't know. There's no specific shots I can think of that were like, oh, I worked on that one shot. Oh, no, the project looked great. But picking out individual scenes, I think if you could pick out individual scenes for lighting, you kind of lost the point.
When you're working on the Orville, are you able to get story elements too? Or is it really just...
It depends on the job.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's multiple aspects. If you're first unit, you're sitting there on set while they're acting. You can pick up the sides and read the script for the day.
Yeah.
Things like rigging or fixtures, you can kind of glean from what's happening around you. Like, oh, we need to light this with a lot of lasers, or we need to light the carbon scoring.
Lasers?
Yeah. Oh, there's a laser battle, so we have to set up flashing lights.
Okay.
To simulate this laser battle. Well, then I know there's going to be a laser battle.
Okay.
And if I'm at lunch and I see this species sitting there and that species sitting there, I can assume that, well, there's going to be a laser battle between these species. But when it comes to actual plot points, no, it's hard to tell without being a first unit SLT.
And do your bosses get the script and that kind of thing, or are they generally working with more images or?
The gaffer definitely gets the script.
What about people like Matt?
Yeah, he's a gaffer.
I don't know.
So yes.
Gaffer,
Yes, the gaffer gets the script. The rigging gaffer gets the script.
Yeah.
Sometimes the fixture's foreman. Not terribly often. Sometimes the lighting programmer.
Yeah.
Depending on the project. But once you get in the low
But it's so
upper
interesting
echelons,
that
no.
so many people work on a movie and contribute, or TV show, work on and contribute, and have no idea what the story or.
Oh yeah, 100%. I would say 90% of the crew on a set doesn't really know what's going on story-wise.
It's so crazy.
That's also partly interest. Like,
yeah, I know. You don't have to
at a certain point, it's just your day job. Like, you show up, you like the set, you build this, you build that.
Yeah.
You go home.
You watch it.
You watch it, like, oh, well, that's what we were doing. That makes more sense now.
Okay.
I've had a couple of those moments, but.
Cool. So, yeah, you can't. The sci-fi shows for you are more enjoyable to work on, but also do they have more like technological advances other than LEDs and pre-visualization in the computing world, or?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, because yeah, you have high-tech things even when you do like musicals.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
From a lighting standpoint, unless you're working something very low budget where you have a restricted package that you can only afford so much, it's all going to be fairly similar. You might have more or less of something, but for most projects, they're all using the same tools.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to things like props and sets, sci-fi is much cooler.
Okay. Yeah.
But because they get toys like 3D printers and foam crafting and stuff like that show like Days of Our Lives isn't gonna care about.
So what are like general problems that you have to troubleshoot, or you mentioned putting together the lighting package, so just kind of the ins and outs of the job. You do this, you get a lighting package, then you solve.
Okay, so your general workflow would be, at least for well, let's say for principal photography, you're going to go shoot a movie. You take the script, you break it down, you get your locations, you look at your locations, and you build a basic package.
Okay.
You say, I'm going to need, if there's lots of windows, I'm going to need big lights outside the windows. If it's a small space, you're going to need small heads that I can hide places, or maybe flat panels that I can tape to walls, or something like that. So build your package, and then you figure out how to control it. A lot of the modern lighting heads require a console, lighting console, to be able to change the colors with.
Yeah.
Now you can also go up to the head and mess with it, but time's money, that's slow. You can connect all of the lights together, run to a board, and have one person control all the lights. That's significantly faster.
Yeah, and you've mentioned that gels are pretty much obsolete.
Yeah.
You mentioned not many.
Yeah, color control is in a golden age right now.
Okay.
Most heads on the market are full color. They've got a daylight chip, tungsten chip, and then red, green, blue.
Yeah.
Some of the more advanced colors, or heads, even like ETC Source 4s, they have a 7-color chip.
Okay.
They've got lime, they've got indigo, they've got blue, because they want to create the largest, the largest spectrum possible. Especially for, they're more of a theater-oriented head, so they want to do really extreme cool colors.
Yeah.
But again, finding a very specific color and then matching it from this head manufactured by this company to over here by this head manufactured by this company is fairly difficult. That's one thing that they will do on larger productions is you build a color palette.
Yeah. Before getting the lights, so you know which company.
Once you choose your lights,
Oh, okay.
then you'll sit down and you'll put all of your lights together, and you'll put up a chip card or you know.
So do the lights have to be from the same manufacturer or same
No.
brand?
It helps, but no.
Oh, okay.
In fact, with only a few exceptions, even lights from the same manufacturer won't be matched together.
Well,
but that's changing because people are being like, if we could get all these to talk together, that'd be great. So we don't have to spend all of this time building a palette, making this light look like that light. So factory color, well, that's a whole different thing. Since you're getting different batches from different factories in China, because that's where all LEDs are from, apparently. It used to be that you would get two heads right from the same manufacturer. If they weren't manufactured from the same batch, they would look different. But factory tuning is like the new big thing, where our daylight from one head will exactly always be the same no matter which one you buy from any time in the that run, you know, that model of light will be the same. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you did things, you told me about a universe of lights that you had to put together. It's very...
Now we're getting very technical.
Yeah, well, what is a universe of lights?
Okay, so back in the day, all lights used to be, well not all, but the majority of lights used to be tungsten.
Okay.
And a tungsten incandescent light bulb, you've got two states, on or off. Well, that's not true, okay, because you can dim it. So you've got one light that can be dimmed up or dimmed down.
Yeah.
But that's all that light can do. It can't change color, it can't do anything.
Yeah.
All you do is make it brighter or make it less bright. That's one channel. So when ESTA, which is the kind of the industry standards committee, developed a control protocol, they said, you know what, we'll make it 512 channels. There's no way anyone will ever use more than 500 channels on a set. So that's one universe. Well, nowadays we have lights, you know, especially like a moving light. It can pan left, it can pan right, it can tilt up, it can tilt down. It can be magenta, cyan, yellow. You can zoom it in. You can zoom it out. Maybe a frost wheel, maybe a goba wheel. I mean, that's 11 channels just for one light. And it's getting to the point now where we're controlling pixel. Like, say you've got a single ribbon, and you've got 1 pixel per inch.
Yeah.
Well, on 12 inches, that's red, green, blue, every single inch. Maybe red, green, blue, amber, or red, green, blue, white.
Yeah.
So that's 12 per foot. Yeah. So now we're having to control, you know, many universes, which is 512 lights.
Yeah.
Of data all at once. So my job is slowly skewing more and more towards less a guy that moves lights, and more a guy that's part of the IT department. I'm setting IP addresses. I'm pinging servers. You know, it's very rapidly, and this is all again basically from the advent of LED.
Yeah.
We can set things that can change color in a very small package and make lots and lots of them in a small space. Well, great. Now that we can do that, let's do fun things with it. Make it give us individual control of it. Yeah.
That's fun. So what are the skills that are most necessary for someone in your job?
The ability to tolerate change.
Okay.
There
can be a couple of skills that you need to do your job.
One of my favorite jokes is, what do we do on set? Everything twice. Because we'll light it, and then they'll say, all right, moving on. We'll light it again, and then, oh, we missed a spot. Let's go back and light it again. Or we'll light it, and the director says, you know what, I like this over here better. Well, we set everything up over here, so we'll move it all over here, and we'll shoot it. I'm like, No, I like that better. So you have to be able to tolerate and be.
Deal with the winds of
Yeah.
the crazy people on top.
Yes, that's exactly right. Working on Spider-Man, we had spent. We went in to like the set 3 hours early.
Yeah.
We got. You okay, George?
Huh?
You okay?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just fine.
So we went in 3 hours early. We liked the whole set, and on his way to work, John Favreau calls up and says, "You know what? I want to do this site instead." Well, okay, but that's not what we lit. So we spent the next 3 hours tearing down everything we had built and moving it over here. So, and then, like I said, you never know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
You never know how long you're going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's by far the most significant skill for anybody in the production side of movies is you gotta enjoy change.
If someone were trying to get into lighting, what would you suggest for them? I don't.
No. I love my job. I think more people should be doing what we do.
Yeah.
Especially in LA and not in Georgia.
What? They should make movies here?
Right? It's almost like Hollywood was built to make movies at. The most important thing is, and Craig said it last week, don't be an asshole. Like, Hollywood runs on who you know and who remembers you. So if you go and I would much rather have a guy that's inexperienced and enthusiastic than someone who knows what they're doing but doesn't want to do it. Right. So you come on set and throw yourself at it, be friendly, make conversation, ask questions, 100% ask questions, because I'd much rather tell you how to do it twice than have to go back and fix what you screwed up.
Yeah.
So if I told you how to do it and you don't remember, it's fine. Just ask.
Yeah.
Come to me and be like, hey, I know we talked about this, but just to be sure, yeah, that's 100% okay. So be friendly, ask questions. Mm-hmm. Remembering names helps. I'm terrible at it. But yeah, if you can get into someone's phone, that's a good thing because Hollywood runs on the Rolodex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your job is pretty crazy. You have to, you're freelance, so you're waiting for phone calls and for jobs to come, and don't know what the next one is.
100% always have your phone on you.
Yeah.
As soon as you get a text, read it.
Yeah.
Respond. Yeah. Unless you don't want to work, which is fine too. It's one of the great things about our industry is if my project is done and I'm burnt out, I can wait a week. Be like, look, I just need some time off. Yeah. Because we work long hours.
I know.
If you're on production, if you're first unit, your standard day is 12 hours of shooting. Yeah. So that's a 13-hour day because we usually have an hour lunch. Yeah. So 6 hours, lunch, 6 more hours. Now add an hour drive because we live in LA. It's an hour to anywhere, minimum. That's a 14-hour day, 15-hour day sometimes. If you can't take that kind of workload, pick something else. Pick editing. There's a million different industry jobs.
Editing's kind of long too. But
All right,
anyway,
well,
most of them are long. Mine's not. You can have a normal 8-hour day.
Or even in lighting, pick rigging. Riggers usually only work 10 hours. Yeah. It's one of the best parts of it. I mean, they're slinging cable for 10 hours straight. Well, not straight, but
and often very tied up at the end.
That's exactly right. It's more physically demanding. But it's a whole different mindset than the guys that we call them show ponies. Yeah. They're on the show.
So, do you have any stories that you can tell us from productions you've been on of interest? Obviously, the Orville, Legion, Westworld, Avengers, Spider-Man. Any stories from these shows? Because we all know there has been some drama on some of them. Maybe with Fox and the Orville. I don't know if you can tell us anything more.
I mean,
you didn't know.
no, that all came out on Twitter.
Are we all happy that Disney now owns Orville?
No.
What? Oh yeah, Fox.
I mean, if we want to get into politics, I think owning 40% of the movies in the box office is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Giving any company 40% of any market is a terrible idea.
We were very sad at Universal to not get Fox, but
yeah. Well, even that.
That would have
Like-
been a big company
like,
getting
no,
a big company as
Yeah,
well.
that's exactly right. You're not as big as Disney.
No.
But a diversity of viewpoints is important,
Yeah.
especially in media.
Mm-hmm. So there, I know you're under NDAs and everything. You can't talk about stories, and not that we want to hear spoilers or anything on any of these projects. But do you have any stories that came up on the shoot? I know you have stories from movies you've worked on a while ago, but recently, any stories? Or they're just so.
Honestly, most of the good stories come from being on production. And lately I haven't been on production. I've been doing fixtures, I've been doing lighting control, lighting plots. Like, if I'm on set when the actors are on set, no, I've done something wrong. It means there's a problem that I'm there to fix.
Okay.
If, like, everything should be working perfectly when the actors arrive.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're wasting their time. It means we're wasting money.
Yeah, so far I feel you.
Yeah. So usually,
No, you had something about Westworld where you were doing fixtures and then something about lighting some west kind of set outside and some light tear down or something. I don't remember. Something on Westworld.
that was a fun show.
Art
was-
department. Fixtures.
Well, I remember having to recreate all of the lighting from the finale of the second season, one of the seasons. They've got like this huge exterior set,
Yeah.
which unfortunately is now burnt down.
Oh yeah.
That was at Paramount Ranch.
Yeah.
Last fires tore through
Oh
there
yeah.
and destroyed the entire. Yeah.
Well, anyway, we'll open it up to questions. Yeah, Harry?
Yeah, I was an extra on the first Spider-Man movie.
Nice.
And one of the problems they seem to have, one of the problems they seem to have is I was one of the people running down underneath when Kristen Dunst was falling off the building. And they were having wind, so the lighting man and cameraman had to go up on this big rig. The light and the camera was on a cable following a weighted bag that said the Dunst on it.
Yeah.
And the things they have to do, it was just.
Yeah, and that's one of the greatest things about the industry is we always, they're always pushing the envelope and trying to figure out ways to do things that people have never seen before. Like, oh, we're going to have Kirsten Dunst fall off a building, and then we want to follow her. How are we going to do that? And that's a huge collaborative effort between lighting, stunts, grips, camera. Yeah. Having to sit there and like puzzle through these really intricate rigs.
Yeah.
It's really kind of awesome sometimes.
Then the wind blowing, throwing a monkey wrench and all.
Now, was it natural wind or were they
Yeah,
making the
just
wind?
natural
Okay.
wind. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Part of the problem was
yeah. Wind is often a problem.
that big world globe in that sequence with a balloon with the wind. If you
Yeah.
look at the finished gave up on some of it and just used a special effect for that.
And that's why so many companies are going more and more towards green screen. Because
They can control it.
yeah, you just shoot it on
trying
set. If you want wind, you bring in a fan. You turn it on, you turn it off.
Yeah.
We have some huge, they're called Ritter fans on Spider-Man. They're as big around as this table is with aircraft propellers in them.
Yeah.
And they'll turn them on, and
Wow.
you can't stand in front of them. That's hurricane force winds, basically.
What?
Yeah.
Nick, you have a question?
Well, yes, I was reading about Warner Brothers and their basically the huge bet that more production was moving back to LA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was hearing that and the streaming services doing more filming here. Have you noticed any impact on what you do and on the job calls?
Oh,
and things?
100%. The best thing to happen in recent years is the approval of the California tax credit. They redid the whole lottery system. They approved more money. And in general, I'm against corporate welfare. But when you have states like Louisiana and Georgia just dumping money at the studios to try to get them to come out, because on a standard set, you've got hundreds and hundreds of people working. You know, at least on the size of projects that they're trying to attract. You know, so they would just throw tax money at it. And so there was a steady decrease in the amount of jobs in Hollywood. Once we approved our tax credit, we've seen a steady increase. Things are coming back. You know, I'm all for that. But I've been working fairly steadily since that passed, and it's great.
Do we have any other questions? No? Okay, well, any final words? Any other tip of the industry? I don't know.
Anything about the union you want to say? Or
I mean, yeah,
Go you.
go union.
Work better, work union is just straight up is the slogan, and it's right. Like I did 6 years of non-union work, and it was a slog every minute of it. And then eventually get in the union, which I think needs a overhaul how people are allowed in. But once I got in, it's only been life of what do you call it? Increase in
Life value.
yeah.
I don't know.
There's a specific term, but
quality of
Yes.
living,
Quality of
of
yes.
working.
There's a quality of life. There you go.
Okay.
There's a very definite need for unions in our industry.
Yeah.
Because
We're trying to push the envelope and do things no one's ever done, so
Yeah.
that can mean too long hours.
Safety wise,
Yeah.
we have never had. I'm a member of the electricians local, so lighting technicians, and we deal with the power on set. We have never had an industry or one of our local members be electrocuted on set. And the entire time, local's been formed. Now, non-union guys,
They fry all the time.
no, but you hear these horror stories.
No,
Of,
I actually haven't heard of a non-union person being electrocuted in the industry
Yeah,
in quite a long time, too.
Yeah.
just happened in Georgia.
Really?
Stunt
Well, we don't
guy
need to
took
talk
an aerial lift, got too close to power lines.
Yikes.
Well,
Yeah.
it sounds like cautious carelessness can happen anywhere, even in the union.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. But in the union world, there.
More safety precautions.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have mandatory training on lifts. In fact, I have 3 different classes specifically on lifts.
Yeah, I'm just upset at the fact that to be a security guard on a set, I have to be in a union.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's a little ridiculous.
And it costs me $100 a month.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's all the time we have, so thank you so much for filling in.
Thanks.
Okay.
Cut.
Cut. On the other camera,
And
where we're live.